Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Spincast. Today, we're diving back into the world of collegiate esports. Joining us is Justin FLANAGAN. He is one of the esports coordinators, Overwatch head coach, and one of the Rocket League coaches as well at New Jersey City University in JCU. So thank you for taking the time to come on the Spincast with me today, Justin. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. Thank you for having me.
Awesome. To get us started, give us a little bit of your background, right? How did you get involved in esports to begin with, and how did that take you down your path to becoming, one of many different positions at NJCU within the esports program?
I I'm kind of obsessive about a lot of things. I like to jump into projects and stuff. So, I started playing video games probably a little bit later than most people, like actually seriously playing competitive video games in like 2015 or something like that. So I don't have a long tenure when it comes to competitive video games, but when my friends finally started dragging me into it and stuff like that, I kind of latched onto a lot of that stuff. And as I started going into college and stuff like that, it kind of merged well because I got into education as my primary field really. So I kind of just started merging that the passion for video games, that passion for education became coaching.
Yep, absolutely. That's awesome to hear. Whenever you can kind of step up into that leadership coaching world, it's awesome. Always an awesome thing to say the least. But kind of take me into the basics of your program, right? How many games do y'all compete in? What competitions do you compete in? What does your roster look like? And all that kind of great stuff.
So we are super new, about 2 months old.
Okay.
We've been kind of, theorizing about the program for a while now. Maybe about a year or so before that, we were able to build our esports lounge where we have all our computers and stuff like that. So in terms of facilities, we have, a room where we have 12 Alienware computers, nice setup. It's really nice room. COVID said we can't use it, unfortunately, but when we get out of this, it's there. We compete in 3 games currently. We're looking to expand into either Call of Duty or League of Legends sometime soon, maybe next semester or the semester after that. But right now we compete in Overwatch, Rocket League, and Smash. So our Smash team is really good. I am jealous that I can't be the Smash coach because I wish I could take credit for them because they are so good. That team is so well put together. We are in the ECAC right now for all 3 of our teams. And we actually split our Smash team into 2 teams. So the one where we kind of stacked more of our talent, and we went 6-0. I don't know how contested it was because I don't follow Smash that much, but going 6-0 in the first 2 months of a program, I think sounds pretty good to me, and I really applaud those players for being able to put together a run like that so far. For Overwatch, we have a decent pool of talent too. I really love dealing with those students and stuff like that because they are really making my job easier by being good, working with one another with me and everything like that. And then really the same thing for Rocket League. We have, collection of high tier talent, the upper percentile of the solo queue ladder, if you will. We're just transitioning them into team players now. And I think that's going to be a lot of fun going forward, is seeing them develop into something more than they already were.
Yeah, absolutely. That's incredible to hear that, quick growth and success on top of it in such a short amount of time, right? Obviously, almost any new program, this isn't exclusive to esports. Anything that's new typically takes some time to succeed, but having that success, especially with Smash, is impressive to say the least. So congratulations on that. Kind of
Thank you.
diving in a little bit, take us through kind of what a practice day looks like. Most of the audience is a lot of high school kids and their parents that really is wondering, what to expect at the next level in collegiate esports. So take us through kind of how you structure your practices and your team practices to make sure that you sustain that success and continue to get better on top of that.
Yeah, so I'll gloss over just kind of general. We do a bunch of different things from week to week, really try to mix it up. And I try to really learn how the students learn so that I can give them the best experience possible. But we have 2 types of practices generally. We have VOD reviews and then we have scrims. So in the scrims we go in, there's no winning, there's no losing. It doesn't really matter for Overwatch. For Rocket League, there's winning and losing, but it still doesn't matter, right? We're going in with the focus to develop a specific skill or a specific talent and work on something in particular. And then VOD reviews, we look back and we think, did we do that properly? Did we execute it the way we really needed to? And what's the next step that we really need to work on? So our main focuses are making sure that we're doing things in a tiered fashion and making sure that we're communicating properly so that everybody's always on the same page and there's no misunderstanding. Minimizing the misunderstanding is probably like the biggest thing for me, because I feel like miscommunication is where everything starts to fall apart from that point forward, regardless of skill.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, the communication is so important on really anything in life, right? If you don't communicate well, whether it's in, an esport title or, with your significant other, it's really probably going to end pretty poorly no matter what. But
Yeah.
on that note, take me into some of those esports skills that you think kids are developing. And that was framed a little poorly on my part. I apologize. Looking towards the future, right? Obviously, the next steps into the workforce are playing professionally, and communication is a really good example of this. What skills are you kind of actively promoting them to gain internally, like leadership or communication, so they can really be successful later in life and take what they've learned in esports and kind of apply it to their job or playing professionally as they look towards that next step in their pathway?
So the number one thing that I absolutely want all my players to figure out is the discipline part of it, and I think this is why esports is so good in the collegiate sense because what you really need to have in order to go to college and be on a semi-professional team in certain aspects is you need to have discipline. You need to be going to bed at a decent time, waking up at a decent time, making sure you're eating 3 meals a day. Because when it comes down to that very narrow 0.1% margin of the top skill in the world, this is what they're kind of squeezing out of themselves to get the most out of themselves. So I want to make sure that we're doing that as well. I want to make sure that they got to be on top of their homework, they got to be on time to scrims and stuff like that, because every minor disruption, everything that kind of like knocks them down a peg or pushes them back in a small way affects everybody else in such a big way. So that discipline to be there, that discipline to stay on top of their responsibilities is a big thing.
Yeah, absolutely. It is so important to really have that discipline, to make sure that everything remains balanced, right? Eating 3 times a day, so many people overlook it, like, oh, I'll eat a big meal later, or I'll just take a couple of snacks. Like that affects performance and everything, right? Especially in esports when it's such a mental game that you need
Yeah.
your brain to be functioning at a high level. If you're not fueling your brain, well, your brain has no fuel. Anything that doesn't have fuel isn't going to work right or just stop working altogether. So absolutely agree with you there. Kind of looking at your roles in particular, take me through kind of what your responsibilities and roles are at NJCU in the esports program, kind of in that day-to-day fashion.
So right now we only have two people kind of in the program as a whole who are working on things. Me and the other person who I said, works on the program. They co-coach Rocket League and then they coach Smash. So essentially we have the responsibility of anything that comes up in developing an esports program or any ideas that we have that we can push forward. So for instance, we're talking to editors to try to figure out how can we push our content. Same thing with casters, trying to figure out how can we push and evolve our content, but then at the same time figuring out how do we develop our community, how do we host events while online and stuff like that, all while hosting practices and stuff like so on and so forth. So you know it's hard to kind of give an overview really of the responsibilities because it comes in a lot of different ways and it changes from week to week, but really our focus is just creating an experience for the students and creating an atmosphere that will kind of perpetuate itself going forward.
Absolutely, that's awesome to hear. I know I really do like seeing those kind of missions and ideas because it's so important for the students, right? There's so many valuable lessons learned there. Kind of looking towards the future. You mentioned earlier you want to expand to a few more games, but what does the future of the esports program look like now at NJCU? Are there any milestones or goals that y'all want to accomplish in the next 1, 2, or 3 years?
So in the next 1, 2, or 3 years, I'm hoping that we can actively have people who are coming to our school for esports because they said, oh, I saw something that said NJCU on it. I really liked watching it. I really liked what's going on there and I want to go there. I think we're going to have a lot of people coming to the school who say, oh, that's convenient that you also have an esports program. But the goal is really to have people come here because they saw esports first and then they also wanted the academics.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. That's kind of the goal for all esports right now, especially kind of like traditional sports, right? People on the football team at Alabama go there to play football at Alabama, right? And as esports continues to evolve, I think we're going to see more and more of that, especially as programs like yours continue to expand and grow and gain that media visibility over time, because we don't see a lot of that in collegiate sports in general right now.
Yeah.
That kind of takes me to my next question, on that same facet is kind of like, what's your kind of idea of how collegiate esports should gain more visibility, right? Because it's growing. There's so many programs. There's so many people playing, but you don't see it on Saturday Night Prime TV right now. Like, what are those steps in your mind to really kind of captivate an audience as esports continues to grow at the collegiate level?
I think that largely it's going to come down to time in a lot of ways, because I mean I think we're seeing this across all forms of esports, but as people kind of grow up with these things, they really they have a different perspective, when they're parenting, when they're leading their communities, when they have the choice, when they get into the high positions after they've graduated and stuff, who they decide to, fill those roles, what they decide to air if they're the coordinator for television station or whatever. So I think it's really just going to come down to time, but I think it's also going to come down to things like this, where we're talking just about what we can offer in a lot of ways outside of just playing video games. Because I think for a lot of people, this does come down to that, they're just playing video games, but there's a lot more that we're requiring outside of that. Because once you take it into kind of, New Jersey City University, aside from me, is an entity that has its own ideals and goals and backgrounds and their own standings that they have to uphold. So we want to take our community and be able to raise to those standards, so that we can bring together the best of both worlds, right? We have the attraction, they have the money.
Yep,
And
absolutely.
that's really what we need. That esports lounge is amazing, I'm telling you.
Yeah.
If anybody has a chance to check out our YouTube channel, we have a video just showing the computers and stuff, because they're so nice. um, but that's that marriage, right? Is that we're the attraction, and we want to really be able to provide that standard, so that they can have faith in our community. And I think the time and pushing the message is going to be a big thing for collegiate esports as a whole.
Absolutely, absolutely. So important there to really kind of focus in on that partnership, because there's so much mutual benefit to both sides. So totally agree there. Looking kind of, you mentioned it earlier, right? You want kids to come to your school to play esports, right? So obviously that kind of begs the question of recruiting, right? What does recruiting look like, or how are you going to go about recruiting? And kind of my question to you is, as you think about recruiting in general and getting those kids into your program, what do you look for in high school students that kind of, sets them apart, so to say, right? Because there's so many super good Rocket League or Overwatch players. There's a ton of people that play these games. But as you start to look towards these recruits, what are things that pop in your mind that, you would recommend or give advice to these high school students to focus on as they kind of go about their recruiting pathway to get to college, whether it's your program or another program?
Uh, so I think it comes down to kind of just one main thing. It's the work ethic. So I've had a lot of students that come to me even at the collegiate level, like if they're in our university, where they're like, hey, I want to be a part of this team, and I'm like, okay, you need to do A, B, and C, and then come back to me, and they disappear. So if you wanna do it, it's not just a matter of being good. You have to go find the people, actively like look for opportunities. You have to follow up. You have to keep yourself on top of everything that you're trying to do, because like I'm a student too, on top of all of this stuff. So I know how difficult it could be to manage and juggle those responsibilities. But if you want to get it done, you have to get it done. And that's what it is at the end of the day. The people who produce results and actually make it through to the end are the ones that we talk about, the ones that we celebrate. So, if you don't see me in another year's time or something like that, it's because I went to go focus on something else, or I just couldn't deliver the goods. So the ability to just, stay on top of your stuff and really follow up is a big thing.
Yeah, that work ethic and dedication is something that when you have it, it's unmatched, right? It clearly sets you apart from the rest of the pack, so to say. And that's super important in that recruiting process when there's so many different kind of competitors, so to say, as everyone's looking for a spot on an esports roster at the collegiate level. My last question before we run out of time, I ask everybody this to kind of finish the spin-cast off, is looking at esports as a whole, right? What's that next step to kind of go from, huge, massive following, massive growth, but it's not quite the NFL, it's not quite, European soccer or World Cup soccer, right? It's not the kind of competition of the globe, even though it's said it will be one day. But my question is kind of, what's that first step that we need to do from today looking forward to become the world sport or the world's competition, so to say?
I think staying on the same track that we've been, honestly. I think a big part of esports is, communication between the leagues and the devs that work on the game, because I think the health of the game is a big part of the esports in general. So as long as, we keep pushing out good games that people love, we keep caring about the community, and we keep kind of spreading the positive parts of it, right? There's a lot of toxicity gaming, but we don't want any of that. We want, for Overwatch, the acoustics in the game are so amazing. The storylines are so amazing. The feel of the game is so amazing. We want to push that joy, that love onto new people, so that they can join in.
Yeah, absolutely. It's kind of focusing on what everybody kind of wants in that, and keeping the bad away. Because like you were saying, toxicity, it happens in esports, happens in everything really. But that doesn't define esports, unlike what the media sometimes like to say. But totally agree with you there. We are out of time, so thank you so much, Justin, for sitting down with me at Spincast today. Real quick, if you will, plug your program. Tell us if you have a Twitter, a YouTube, a Twitch. I know you mentioned YouTube earlier. Tell us where we can find your program. Obviously, it'll be in the links in the description below as well, but tell us where we can find your program so we can stay up to date on everything esports at NJCU.
Yeah, so everything's going to be NJCU Esports. We have Twitter, we have Instagram, we have YouTube, we have Twitch. Everything's kind of just up and coming. You can even look up NJCU Athletics. We have a section on our athletics page. But, coming into the next semester, definitely we're going to have a lot of stuff there. So for anybody who's interested, wants to check it out, you could reach out to me on Discord too. If you want to join the NJCU Discord, those will all be in the descriptions of all of our channels and stuff like that. So you come join us at any time.
Everyone, give them a follow over there. It's a new program, but it seems like a lot of exciting growth and a really great mission and objectives behind that. So super awesome. Can't wait to see y'all continue to succeed and grow. To our viewers and listeners, thanks for staying the entire time. Stay healthy and stay happy out there. COVID's still a thing. Make sure you take care of yourself and your loved ones. And remember, stay plugged in.